Welcome to the Saint and the Singer.
I'm the saint.
And I'm the singer. And we are, is this week 4 already?
I think it's actually, I think it is week 4. We finished Genesis today. So we've now
Yes.
officially finished 2 out of the 66 books of the Bible.
We're almost done.
Crickets. It's a good start.
I mean, if you look at it on like a really huge, like geologic kind of time scale, we're almost done.
Yeah.
Yeah, how's your week going?
So far, so good. Kind of been slow and steady, just knocking out little extra projects here and here.
Cool.
So,
How's your week going?
Yeah, I didn't really get that. Okay.
I'm not sure that's going to be a running joke, but it's kind of funny to me right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously we're done with Job, which is like, has been pretty good for me.
It's a breath of fresh air, yes.
This is like, oh yeah, we're back to reading stuff I want to think about. So, just like last week, we are still in the Bible Recap Green Book discussion guide. We're on week 4, and I have not looked at any of these questions, so
I haven't either. I'm going in it blind.
who knows? So instead of dilly-dallying too much, there's 9 questions this week, so we got through, I think, 6 last week, so let's see what happens.
Sure.
All right. As we studied the sins of Jacob and Laban and Rachel and Leah, did you find any of their stories resonating with you? If so, how? Where have you seen God's patience and goodness to you in the midst of your story? Personally, my maidservant
I was going to say.
has been pretty unresponsive to me lately, and I really don't know what the problem is. I'm going to have to get with my wife and see if she can straighten her out.
Yeah, no, you 2 wives. You got your favored wife, and then you got the other wife. Mm-hmm. Because your father-in-law decided to pull one over on you, and you didn't have electricity.
And they're sisters, which is even weirder. Yeah.
But Leah did get to have a son because of a mandrake.
It's true. I ordered a box of those on Amazon to see what that's all about. Anyway,
Of mandrakes? Supposedly it was for fertility.
that ship has sailed. Yeah, I'm not sure I even understand that question. Because, I mean, do they resonate with you? Yeah, in some respect. You've got like the sibling rivalry with Rachel and Leah, the competition, Laban cheating Jacob out of 14 plus years of his life, Jacob cheating Laban out of
Most of his wealth.
flocks. I mean, that doesn't ring very true in my life, but I mean, I don't know. That's
I don't think
kind
it's
of a weird question.
So actually, I did know this question because my wife and I were discussing it this morning, and I just felt like this is not a question that a man would write.
Well, Tara Lee Cobble.
No offense,
Not a man.
I'm just saying no offense, but there's a difference.
It's like the old Jake from State Farm commercial. Well, she's a woman, so
No, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but I think that this is a question that's kind of trying to make an emotional connection to a story that I'm not sure we were called to have an emotional connection to so much. As I think it's more of a background building up of the change for Jacob.
yeah. I mean, because really, I just look at it and go, "What a bunch of buttholes." I mean, they're all
really.
just jerks to each other.
They're all
basically.
they're all deceiving each other, and they're all just trying to one up each other.
The one thing that you can get out of it, right, is like, okay, they're all jerks, they're all stupid, they're all mean to each other. That's us. Maybe not in the same way and fashion that's being laid out here, but God used them and their children and their stupidity and their thoughtlessness and their impatience to eventually do good. Mm-hmm. But boy. I mean, I was listening to a podcast earlier about trailer trash Tammy. I think she'd be real at home in this situation, really. But I don't know. That was dumb.
Well, I do. It is very, very soap opera esque.
Very. And I don't know. It's a little unrealistic at times, but I know I get it.
Well, it is
I
real.
just don't feel like we live that way anymore.
We don't have that.
Really.
We're it's outside of our cultural mindset. That's
Right.
a big part of it. Is it when we
Right.
place this in the cultural context? Yes, this was how things were done
Right.
in an ancient Middle Eastern culture, but in a Western civilization culture in the 21st century, we don't grasp this concept at all.
Or maybe we just have a better friend group. Maybe other people treat each other this way, but I guess my friend group really doesn't treat each other that way. Maybe
I mean, if you want to work for 7 years at my place, okay, I guess I'll let you. But
the only problem is you only have one daughter, so you
Yeah.
can't cheat somebody out
yeah,
of
I can only get 7 years.
yeah.
I can't get the full 14.
I mean, obviously, she's worth working 7
Well,
years
I-
for.
yeah,
She's,
I'm-
but maybe even 8. But yeah, but you can't cheat anybody unless you want to give somebody Zane. That'd be
yeah, I don't think.
that
Yeah.
would be- Okay, we
They'd
better
ask for
move
their
on
money
before
back.
this goes downhill. How can we discern when stories in Scripture are descriptive, like in Genesis 35, versus which are prescriptive?
Now, this is a good question.
This is a good question.
I think you have to look at, first off, what stories are is the story celebrating sin, or is it, because that would definitely, I don't want to say celebrate, I don't think it's the right word, but if it's putting a spotlight on sin, it's going to be descriptive for sure. So if it's a sinful behavior that we know elsewhere is a sin, then it's descriptive.
Yes.
Obviously, Lot's daughter sleeping with him is not a prescriptive thing where it's like, you know what, hey, everyone go and, every daughter go and, hop into bed with your dad. It's not a good situation there. Okay, we understand that. We can
I would
see
tend
that.
to agree. Yes.
Yes, but because we recognize through the rest of the Bible that this is significantly frowned upon
Yeah.
by God, that he does not see this as a holy and just thing. So that is a descriptive situation. So if it's shining a spotlight on a sin, it's descriptive. If it is calling us to live differently than the spotlighted sin, it's prescriptive.
I hate to be overly simplistic here, but it seems to me like if it reads like a narrative, it's descriptive. When it says, pardon my preference for King James here, but thou shalt or thou shalt not, that's prescriptive. Or do this. Jesus says, do this as often as you come together at the excuse me, at the Last Supper, or he says, go and make disciples. It is a directive. It is a do this, don't do that. That feels, I know there's going to be examples where that's not as clear, but I think for a sizable portion of Scripture, it's that clear. And again, there's always
I would
an
say
exception to that.
I would say that there are definitely prescriptive narratives in the Old and New Testament.
Right.
But yes, I think
there's always something to gain from it, but a lot of it is
yeah, I think of Samson as an example. His lifestyle is descriptive.
right.
Until you get to the end, when he finally acknowledges God and prays to God, now it becomes prescriptive. Of course, it's when he lost
Okay.
his life.
I was going to say, okay, not pushback, but clarification here. What's being prescribed there?
Well, at that point, I think it's
Knock
turning.
down all the Philistines and their temple?
Well, I think no. I think
I
I,
don't
think
know.
what is coming down is kind of finally humbling himself
Yeah.
and coming to the point where he realizes that God has always been with me, but I've not always acknowledged God.
Right.
Now I'm finally humbled where I have to acknowledge God. Okay, we
Right.
can use the other. We can
Right.
use the example of Judah. There is definitely a prescriptive component of Judah in Genesis.
Okay.
You go from the beginning. Judah is the one that first says, "Hey, let's kill my brother. Let's sell him, and then let's sell him to the Egyptians,
Yeah.
or the Ishmaelites. I mean,
Then let's have sex with my daughter-in-law.
and then we go. But that's the changing moment there for him.
Right.
He ends up having sex with his daughter-in-law, unknowingly, and it comes back to bite him in the proverbial rear there, and it humbles him.
Yeah.
And then from there, we see a beautiful situation where when he is face to face with Joseph at the thought of losing Benjamin, his dad's favored son, he offers up his life in exchange.
Yep.
So now it has become prescriptive.
Yep.
Because you can see the humbling. So I would say
there's an example of what we're talking about.
So that's why I think it's more, is the narrative focusing on the sin, or is then it's definitely going to be descriptive. If it's focusing on redemption, I think it can be prescriptive.
Okay. All right.
That's how I would.
I agree. Is there a third? I was trying to think. Is there a third category? There's prescriptive.
There wasn't. It was just prescriptive and descriptive.
So after God renames Jacob Israel, he is still regularly called by his old name, unlike what we saw with Abraham and Sarah. What do you think that is? Because they call the God there for a while the God of Jacob.
So the reason is because the name Israel, the time that Moses is writing this, the Israelites has now become a people group.
Right.
It's the nation of Israel.
Right. The tribes, the nation.
You know, and so because of that, it would be confusing at times
to be talking about Israel when
as a singular person,
you yourself might be part of Israel. Yeah.
Yeah. So they will remind that as Jacob. So yes, when they talk about the patriarchs, it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yep.
But Jacob becomes Israel.
I like that answer. Okay. What significant event happens in Jacob's life that signals the change when he starts replacing pillars with altars and referring to God by his name?
This was I had never picked up on this until.
Have you ever preached a sermon on this?
I think I have, but I had before Tara Lee Coble had pointed this out. I had not picked up on this. This was really insightful for me.
The pillars versus
the pillars.
altars.
Yeah. So kind of a background. Before he would stick up a pillar as a memorial to God, but that was actually a pagan Canaanite practice.
Kind of not necessarily an Asherah pole, but a similar probably on a high place and a pillar and yep.
And it was to mark some spot where he had talked with God, but it wasn't really the form of worship that God had, that his father and grandfather would do.
Right.
After he wrestles with God, he wrestles with a stranger who he doesn't know who it is at first, and have a long battle overnight and Jacob at this point is scared because he's thinking somebody is breaking into his camp to kill him because he's leaving, he's running away from Laban and his brother-in-laws because he stole all their flock. Yes. He's running back towards his brother who 20 years earlier,
400.
Yeah. And also 20 years earlier said, I'm going to kill you. You stole my birthright, my blessing.
Yes.
It's on like Donkey Kong.
Was that between a rock and a hard place?
I think so, or the fire and out of the frying pan and into the fire, Yeah. And so here he is. He's in this, in this heightened sense of anxiety, and a stranger walks through the camp. And his fight, flight, or freeze was definitely fight. So he starts getting up and starts tussling with this guy, and eventually he doesn't know who it is. It's still dark, but the stranger then just touches his hip. And it dislocates his hip, and then he realizes at that moment that he is wrestling with God. And many scholars actually think this is not actually Jesus; that this is actually God the Creator. That this is a that this is a theophany, is what not a Christophany, and that is that it's actually God the Creator that he's fighting with. And at that point, once the hip is broken, he stops wrestling and he just clings,
hangs on.
And after this, he comes to his brother Esau. His Esau embraces him with open arms, and then he creates the altar.
So, would the difference be that the pillar... I haven't thought about this at all, so this is all verbal processing, so forgive my ignorance here. So would the pillar represent something more of like an honorarium, but not really any sacrifice? And then the significance of the altar is that it now represents a memoriam and a sacrifice, because would he have not sacrificed on that altar?
Yeah.
So it's a change in it's obviously it's a change in his attitude, but now he's giving up something, perhaps.
Yeah, and
I mean that's an awkward way to
I think there is
that,
definitely
there's something there.
There is something that he's paying something to God. He's offering something to God.
Right.
In this case, a lamb.
Right.
I would argue even take it even deeper. When he put up the memorials or he put up the poles, it was always the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac.
At the altar, it becomes the God of Jacob.
Now it's my God.
Yeah.
He now recognizes that the promises that were given to his grandfather and passed down to his father,
Right.
that those promises also include him.
And it represents now I've got some skin in the game with a
Yeah.
with a pillar. I'm not. I don't know. That may be a
No, I think
may
you're
be stretching
it's-
here.
No,
But
I think there's definitely some truth to that because there is the altar means that I am lighting a fire. I am placing a valuable commodity, a lamb,
Right.
to a shepherd. That's a pretty big deal. A lamb, a sheep, a goat, whatever he placed on there. It doesn't say. It might have been a calf. I don't think it was Gatorade.
I'm fishing for sponsors.
Whatever he put out there, he had to kill it and he had to light it and offer it to God. So yeah, there is that sacrifice, both a literal sacrifice, but also a spiritual sacrifice that he is now finally submitting to God.
I guess it could go either way as to whether the sacrifice represents the change in heart or the change in heart represents some sacrifice within him. But I don't know.
I don't know. What
I'll have to think about that.
I think both are.
That's chicken
accurate.
and egg.
Yeah.
Okay. What does the story of Judah and Tamar reveal to us about God?
Well, I think it reveals several things. First off, I think it reveals that God is a just God. He cared about Tamar, so he's going to provide for Tamar.
Provide for her.
And actually what he ends up doing is he ends up giving Tamar twins, and one of those twins becomes the legal line of Judah.
Yep.
It's not the other son,
Yep.
The one that was supposed to be given to
And now we're starting to kind of see that theme too, where
The
it's not
younger-
necessarily it's the younger brother who's getting. I mean, it starts out with Jacob and Esau.
well, actually starts out
obviously.
with Isaac and Israel and
Yes,
Ishmael.
yeah, that's what I meant. Isaac and Ishmael, and then Jacob and Esau, and you're starting to see this theme where
Now it's Judah
we're
over
kind
his
of
brothers.
upturning the whole firstborn situation,
Perez
which is
over, yeah. And I think it's interesting that God places Perez and Tamar in the line of Jesus.
mm-hmm.
That is the line that he
and do you want to go
when he has as Ruth and Rahab.
Rahab? That's
Yep.
what I was thinking about.
But the other thing that I did hear, and it's a thought, something to think about, is that the reason why the two firstborn sons, they were becoming too much like the Canaanites. That's what their wickedness was, is that they were conforming to the world around them. And one of the reasons why they had to be removed from Canaan as the people group and go to Egypt for a time was to separate themselves up, because the Egyptians were just naturally, racist. Let's just be honest with it. They, at that point,
Right.
they were definitely racist to other cultural groups, and so the Israelites, the Hebrews, would have been separated at the land of Goshen, but it would have allowed them to basically be set apart and to kind of grow and solidify and not have the Canaanite and the the Egyptian and all that other impact. So that it was all part of God's plan. Yeah. But going back to our original question, yeah, I think it's a very beautiful thing, because also not only does Tamar become important, but Judah changes. Mm-hmm. Judah finally has that rock bottom moment. He was angry, like, how could you get pregnant? Why did you become a prostitute? How could you?
How could you, you terrible woman?
And then she says, well, here's the person that I slept with, and hands over, his signet ring. Like, oops. It'd be like handing over his wallet and said, hey, well, this is the guy that I slept with, and
here's your ID.
He gave me his ID, and like, oh,
Whoops.
Now I feel about 4 inches tall. And then that had to, it was a wake up, because Judah had forgotten about her.
Yep.
He was supposed to give his third son to Tamar for her protection.
Right.
I don't know why my voice is getting loud. I guess
I
I'm
don't
getting,
know.
I'm
You're
getting
really
passionate
excited about this.
I am passionate about Judah and
Wow.
Tamar. I don't know why.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's be honest here. There's a lot of injustice there. On behalf, there's a
Yeah.
woman. I don't know. There's some weirdness in her thought patterns that are thrown out there too. I'm not. This is gonna sound weird, but it kind of almost sounds like she enticed it to some degree, and then of course he did some unscrupulous things. So there's a lot of injustice in that thing, but why you're passionate about it is because there's a lady there who's pregnant and left on her own, and the guy who's responsible didn't even think enough about it to care, and then is mad at her, and it's something he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
and here's the thing:
it's wild.
There's kind of an argument scholarly about Tamar. Like, did she intentionally dress up like a cultic priest. Prostitute?
Yeah.
Or was she simply in her grieving clothes and Judah just mixed it up? So, like, was it an intentional thing, or was it a situation that just kind of just happened because of happenstance? They don't know, and we can never really guess Tamar's how much of it was willfully planned and how much of it was just dumb luck, or just a situation of opportunity, but. But I think it is a beautiful thing because this is where Judah changes.
Yeah.
Now he becomes the Lion of Judah that he's going to be blessed with.
So people, it's not always in the happy time, everything's a wonderful time that you change for the better. Seems like a lot of the stories we're reading right now require you to be busted up, broken, and self-realization that, I'm not as good or as smart or as strong or as holy or as put together as maybe I think I am. And then, maybe I should lean on someone who is.
Yeah. I would say that.
Just going to throw that out there.
I would say that we have to hit rock bottom. And some of us, that is a very long trip.
Yep.
It's a very deep and dark trip.
Yep.
But at some point, we have to get to the bottom where we only can look up.
I've been there.
Yeah.
And I would argue that's kind of my Judah changing point,
Yeah.
too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get my daughter-in-law pregnant or anything, but, it was not much better than that. So, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which part of Joseph's story was most heartbreaking for you? The family betrayal, the lies he endures from the person in power, the forgetful friend? Moses, the author of this passage, continues to remind us that God is with Joseph in all of this, yet his life is far from easy. Have you ever felt like God left you alone in your pain? And did Joseph's story comfort you? That's a lot of questions in one question. So which part of Joseph's story was the most heartbreaking for you?
I think it would be probably for me, it's being placed in jail, wrongly accused, even more so than the brothers. Because I guess part of me is like, he kind of, his arrogance and his dad, favoring him kind of caused that situation. Yeah. Telling everyone your dreams, probably was not in the best. He's 17 years old. He's young and dumb.
Yep.
You guys are all going to bow down to me. Probably not a good thing to talk about when you're already showed in as you've kind of been
The
turned into
baby, and then dad loves you more than anybody else.
And kind of makes him the narc.
Yeah.
Like, you go spy on your brothers and tell me if they're really doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the family thing doesn't really bother me nearly as much as the being wrong, being falsely accused and then placed in jail for his righteousness. Because he was righteous, he was placed in jail. Now, I think it's interesting that while he's in jail, and basically it's not like what we kind of think of as a prison, I don't think. I think it's more of a house arrest.
House arrest, because he was in Potiphar's house the whole time. He wasn't in prison.
No, it is a warden of something, so he is at another house or something.
I thought it said it was within Potiphar's house somewhere. I may have to go rethink myself.
I don't know, my Bible's over there, but I don't
It's way
think
too
that's
far
the
to
case.
get it.
I know. There's one right there if you can reach it.
Oh my gosh! Got it.
That was painful to watch, actually.
It's painful to do.
But the truth is that he is placed in a house arrest situation, and then through the course of that, though, he's able to gain respect, and he ends up again managing everything. He is the quintessential manager that you want at your in your job,
In your prison.
Let's see.
I'm still thinking about what's heartbreaking. I wouldn't say any of it was. I mean, I could see where that would be definitely heartbreaking, but
No, it's where the king's prisoners were confined. And this is verse 39 or chapter 39, verse 20. And Joseph's master, Potiphar, took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in prison.
oh, okay. I would have swore maybe even she said or something that had something to do with he was still in Potiphar's house.
Well, she said something about it was house arrest. That's how.
Maybe that. Okay,
But it wasn't Potiphar's house. I think it was more of a.
Okay, in the king's house. I don't know. Anyway,
Well, I think there's probably some. There might be a little king's guest house or whatever.
maybe
they're
that's
gonna walk into.
irrelevant.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm
it's
thinking
interesting-
about that way too much.
But you know what is interesting? This is kind of a side note. It's the two king's prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
It's a baker
Baker
and it's a cupbearer.
and the wine. Yeah,
It's the wine press. It's the bread.
The
and
bread
it's
and the wine.
It's the wine. So
yeah, that's interesting.
I always thought that was interesting. And it was, and the blood is redeemed,
And the bread.
and the body
not.
is broken.
Yeah. Yep. But it's totally not symbolism.
Yeah, right. There's no way that somebody would figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally. I don't know. I always like the scene where he reveals himself to his brothers.
That is.
I'm not sure that I would call that heartbreaking, but it's heartwarming the way that the forgiveness aspect is it's extravagant. It's very Christ-like.
Sure.
And I guess if you want to say it, he is probably quite a little precursor to Christ himself. He suffers a lot, and he offers up forgiveness, steadfastness. He's always reliable, So, well,
A good manager.
good manager.
I do, and I always find it funny that he kind of like pulls the wool over their eyes. He's like, I'm gonna forgive them, but I'm not gonna make it easy on them.
I mean, I feel like this would be something that I would do.
Oh, I would.
I'd
totally.
be like, I'm gonna forgive them, but I'm gonna make them sweat.
Yes.
I make people sweat from time to time. Maybe not in such extreme ways, but I like to make people sweat a little bit before I tell them what's going on. Egypt, we're running out of time here. Egypt is blessed as a result of Joseph's presence during the famine. What does it reveal about God's heart that he uses one of his children to bless those outside his family?
Well, the truth is that everyone's going to become a part of God's. Every nation has the opportunity to come and be blessed because of Jesus Christ, and that actually goes back to Abraham's blessing. The part of that blessing is that he will be the
father of many nations.
Not even just that, but then it also talks about the blessings that out of his family will be the blessings for the nation.
Yeah, right.
And so, which again is foreshadowing Jesus Christ. So yeah, God does bless Egypt, but it's also the same thing. What about he blesses the with Elijah? He blesses the I don't remember where she's from, but it's a non-Israelite woman who has the oil and the
The widow and the son.
yes, and I can't remember where she's from now. It starts with an S. I just blanked on it though.
Sacagawea.
No.
Sardinia.
No. No.
Okay. Samsonite.
She's not luggage.
That was a Dumb and Dumber joke.
No.
Slippy, Slappy, Samsonite.
Okay. And done. But I think that God does show over and over, even in the Old Testament before Christ comes, we see this beauty of, I'm going to offer the whole world. Every single person is going to have the opportunity to be blessed by me. I'm not just choosing these Hebrew people for, as an isolationist kind of thing. That these are the only ones that are going to have it, and everyone else is just going to have to, sorry, you guys are outside of my inner circle. You're not in the clique. You didn't make it. But I'm setting them apart because I want them to be able to bless the world.
I can accept that, but that's not the way I've ever thought about it. I've thought about it the other way. It's like he's blessed Egypt in order to provide a good incubator for his people.
Yeah.
I mean, because basically what it comes down to is they, through Joseph, the Israelites come into being through that whole situation. Sure. And it's a good incubator for that. And then over time, they become so successful that they become obnoxious to the Egyptians, and eventually things turn on them. And so I've always looked at it like God did that in order to prosper the Israelites, and almost used Egypt as a tool for that. But at the end of the day, Egypt wasn't necessarily blessed in the end, so to speak.
No, but what that does is that sets up and foreshadows, again, all of this is foreshadowing what Jesus is going to do on the cross. Right. He's going to break us away from the bondage of sin.
Right.
And take us to the promised land.
Yeah.
So everything has a deeper meaning,
Yep.
Even the descriptive stories are pointing to something deeper.
Yep. Oh no, you can definitely start seeing. I mean, we're to that place now where you're seeing this recycles, kind of the wrong
cyclical
word. The story becomes recycled and bigger. It's almost like a snowball going down a hill. It gets to be more names and more situations, but it's the same story rolling down the hill and picking up more steam and people. So this is the part where I start getting excited in the Old Testament of like just, oh, look, it's all rolling down the hill towards Jesus.
Basically, the story is over and over, God loves, man fails, God redeems.
Yep. In what ways do Joseph's brothers demonstrate that they are repentant and that their hearts have changed since they sold him into slavery?
Well, the fact is that they are protecting Benjamin. Mm-hmm. That is the whole point. Is that we recognize that our father dearly loves Benjamin, that he's his favorite son at this point. We've already lost one son. We've lost one brother. He's lost one son. We can't do that to him again.
And then Judah,
and then absolutely Judah.
Willingness to switch places. Yeah.
I always wondered, why did he choose Simeon the first time to keep? Was there like a little certain this is Simeon. He's the annoying one. But he like kind of points out Simeon, like you're going to stay behind.
Stay behind.
And we're going to throw you in jail.
Maybe he was somebody that way back in the day had provided him with either a little bit of comfort, or maybe he was the worst.
I would say I'm going to go with I'm going to say that there was probably a few times where Simeon gave a couple punches of the arm when he was.
Because I was kind of thinking when I was reading this piece, it was like he kept Simeon, but the time that the brothers left and came back would not have been like, hey, we'll be back in 30 minutes. It's not like we went to the gas station, got some milk,
it was
came
enough
back.
where they ate all of the food.
Right. So during all that time, what was going on with Simeon? Was he held in prison, or did he like let him in on the secret of like, hey, you know what? I'm just messing with the rest of these dudes. Hang out with me, play along. We're going to have a good time. And at the end of this, I'm going to make everything okay. And you're not going to find that in there. But I was thinking about, my imagination was kind of running wild when I was thinking about that of like, okay, how did they spend their time during that time? Because it had to have been, I think it was it 2 years that they were gone?
It doesn't. Yeah, well, I mean,
I felt like it was something like a year or 2 or 3. I cannot. Obviously, I was paying very good attention while I was reading yesterday. I think this was yesterday.
I'm trying to think, I'm trying to figure out where it says. It just says when they had eaten the grain they had brought from Egypt, and their father said, "Go again and buy us a little food." It doesn't necessarily say how long it is at that point. Leave one of your brothers with me and take grain for the famine of your households and go your way. Yeah, I don't know. I always wondered that. But I think it's interesting. And Jacob, their father, said to them, "You have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin." So it's like the dad is like almost just like written him off. Well, Simeon's gone. That sucked. I mean, I kind of like the kid.
At least it wasn't Benjamin.
So, but I at least have been. Now you want to take Benjamin too?
I mean, honestly, can we just be honest real quick? He sounds like a terrible father.
Yes, he does.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think I can truly say I don't love any of my children more than I love the other ones.
Right.
I
like them sometimes more.
My oldest one has a certain spot in my heart because he was the first one that made me a father, and that was my first realization of how much God loves me. Right, the second one has a different place in my heart, but it's just as intense. The baby, sorry, baby, has a different place in my heart, but I love her at the same amount that I love the other two. And so I cannot fathom making it clear to my children that one of those was my favorite and the rest of, he almost makes it seem like the rest of them are like disposable afterthoughts, but these two, because at some point I believe he used the term "my only son," and it's like, dude, there's like 10 more there. Like, how crappy of a father are you to sit there and talk to your 11 sons and basically say, "I only have one left"?
Well, this is also why the oldest one tried to supplant him and sleep with his slave.
You think?
I mean,
I would hate my brother if my father was that way too.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, think about when the daughter Dinah is raped by Shechem, and Jacob doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So Simeon and Levi are like,
brothers go take care.
They take care of it, and they kill all the men inside the town.
Yeah.
And again, that was probably not the best way to handle that, but they were basically saying like, "Dad, you didn't do anything."
Yeah.
He was definitely not, a running for Father of the Year.
Yeah, he's not my favorite. And I know that, because of his life, you still get to Jesus. You still have he's in that line, right? But like, man, every time I read that, I was like, what a P.O. poo.
But here's the thing though. Look at his father. His father favored Esau.
Yeah.
Because Esau, hunted meat and like that, and Jacob was more of a homebody. Look at Abraham. Abraham favored Isaac and sent Ishmael off. Well, and then he even says he has other sons.
That seems like that was more the women.
It was, but he also allowed it to happen.
Yeah, no, for sure.
He didn't tell Sarah, you're being unfair.
His problem there, I think, was more being too passive and not standing up and doing the right thing. Now, obviously, he did care more about Isaac, but it almost was like the women were driving him nuts. He said, "Okay, just get rid of it. Just do whatever you want." But yeah, to your point, not great father figures. Even Father Abraham was a little sad at one point. But to the other point, we've also been discussing through all of these, after his rock bottom,
right,
which I guess would maybe be the sacrifice of Isaac, I guess that turned around before that. When did he turn around?
I would say his rock bottom was probably after Ishmael
left.
Well, not even after Ishmael left. I think I guess when Hagar ran away and came back, I think that probably would be his rock bottom. That or when he, for the second time, lied about his wife being,
Yeah, somewhere in there, though. He turns around and is redeemed, and then he becomes the father of nations. So, the main recurring theme there is no matter how crappy we are, God can still use us to do amazing things.
For sure.
We're going to make it to number 9, I think. Ooh, barely. What is your favorite thing you read about God's character in your God shots from this week?
Well, I think definitely the story of Joseph. You see over and over how God was using what the brothers had for destruction for
For the ultimate
for
good.
the ultimate good. You know, and we see that
Same.
over and over.
Same.
And again, also that redemptive quality that that God is a God that redeems.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And on that note, we're running out of ones and zeros, so we got to get out of here. That guy's the saint.
And that guy's the singer.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
My name is Sean Courtney. I'm the pastor at Connection Point Church, and I would like to offer you a big welcome to come join us on Sunday mornings for Sunday school at 9 o'clock. We have adult Sunday schools, we have children and youth Sunday school classes available. Then following that, we have worship where we will sing praises, pray for one another, and listen to Bible study. Encourage you, that starts at 10:15. We are at 700 Sycamore Street in Monette, Missouri. Also on Wednesday nights, we have more small groups following a meal that starts at 5:30. We have men's group, women's group, single moms, children, and youth. Encourage you guys to come and join us. We believe it's very important to be actively involved in the body of Christ because here, you're family.